Hello, everybody. Welcome to this workbook lesson Zoom discussion. We usually start with a prayer. Today's prayer is from lesson 341. Father, your Son is holy. I am he on whom you smile in love and tenderness, so dear and deep and still. The universe smiles back on you and shares your holiness. How pure, how safe, how holy then are we, abiding in your smile with all your love bestowed upon us, living one with you in brotherhood and fatherhood complete, in sinlessness so perfect that the Lord of sinlessness conceives us as his Son, a universe of thought completing him. Amen. I've listed the 7 lessons that are form the basis for our discussion today, as you can see on the share screen. Robert, would you please read them all? Just so we all get acquainted with what it is.
Okay, I'll be happy
Thank you.
to. Lesson 127, there is no love but God's. 128, the world I see holds nothing I want. Beyond this world, there is a world I want. It is impossible to see 2 worlds. No one can fail who seeks to reach the truth. I loose the world from all I thought it was. I will not value what is valueless.
Thank you. Does anyone have a specific lesson they'd like to start talking about? Okay, I see one hand already. All right, Derek.
Yeah, the lesson that I'm kind of drawn to at the moment is that we don't have it up in front of us. I don't have it up in front. Actually, I do over here. The world I see holds nothing that I want. Yeah, and that in combination with I will not value what is valueless. And then I just wanted to share that when I was reading the lesson 128, I guess it was last week, I happened to be in a state of, I would say, depression. And I wasn't feeling connected to anybody or anything. So I wasn't feeling loving or warm. I wasn't feeling good. I could see my kitty cat. I didn't care that my kitty cat was laying over there. Normally I'm like, ooh, kitty, pet the kitty. And I feel all warm and connected. But last week I didn't. And, I didn't really care about my partner and I wasn't paying attention to her. And so all of these emotional connections that make my life meaningful typically were gone. And I was thinking, oh my goodness, there's my kitty cat. That's a in this world. It's valueless. It's not something that same with, my house and same with my, guitar and my girlfriend. And so all of these worldly things just seemed valueless and meaningless, which I was sort of likening to this lesson. But it's, sometimes in the past, I haven't been too concerned or connected with emotional attachment in this world, but I've been in a very happy, joyous place of coming out of my own heart or whatever you want to call it. But not last week. And I just thought that, my goodness, if you don't value the things of this world, but you don't have access to that other world or to that love of God or just to that feeling good inherently, however you want to put it, then it's really painful to not have anything in either world. And that's where I was last week. So I just wanted to share that sort of rough experience around that lesson 128.
That sure is rough. How did you manage to crawl out?
It's been a rough 10 or so days, but it's just been slowly lifting. These things kind of come and go with me.
I appreciate your honesty.
I don't want to necessarily value these emotional attachments, but I just got to say that the typical emotional attachment brings a fulfillment that when it's gone, when I don't have something else, it's a depressing, painful, icky thing.
Right. And the next lesson in line, because I was thinking those thoughts, even if I wasn't feeling them, but I thought, suppose you do feel them, and now you're explaining it. And then the next lesson comes around. How was that for you? I'll share screen real quickly.
Beyond this, I'm looking over here. Beyond this world, there is a world I want. What it really did for me in a good way, is that it really helped me want to practice my lessons with more fervor or more heart, because I'm like, I can't stay in this wasteland.
Give me a glass of water.
Yeah. Are you on mute?
Oh, of course.
Maybe Johanna, you can mute Robert.
Yeah, he's doing it now.
Perfect. I got my glass of water right here. I'm a cup of coffee and a cup of water. It made me want to double down on my efforts with the course, because I don't want to retreat back to relying on regular emotional attachments, because they're double-edged swords. And I know that. So the way out is to the light, and that takes work, at least from where I'm at right now. And so it made me want to commit even stronger to building those connections with the light, if you will.
Peter, go ahead.
Well, Derek, thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you for sharing your experience. I'm sorry you had that experience. You know, what it brings to mind for me is the Course says in several places, you know, we have to see how miserable we are before we can really appreciate what the Course is offering. And it talks about depression as a natural result of anybody who's separated from their source. So it's, as long as I think my life is working, as long as I think I'm happy, then I'm not going to look to the Course. So in an odd way, those experiences, and I've had that recently as well, I've shared with you a little bit.
Yeah.
It's a gift, because it's like, it's a wake-up call. As long as I think my life is working, then I'm not going to be interested in what the Course has to offer. You know, that's true for me. That's true for me. And I'm seeing that. I'm actually listening to an audiobook that just said that exact thing, not about the Course, but about about finding God in general. And as long as I think my life is working as it is, I will not seek any of that. So it's in those moments when I'm miserable, and again, my heart goes out to you and anybody else who experiences that. That's the gift. That's the nudge. You know, it's like, that's it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. That really resonates.
Carrie? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Derek, and then Carrie.
Yeah, I was just going to respond to that. That I think at different places, somewhere in the Course, it says that, you know, pain is going to drive you to search for God. And at some point, when you start really getting clear on the good things that come from forgiveness, then loving that is
doing this now.
Robert, would you please mute yourself? I can't do it for you.
Oh, you don't have that control, Johanna?
No, I don't have that control. I looked for it.
Interesting. I don't either. Oh, well. Yeah.
Robert, we can hear you really loud right through what somebody else is saying. So that's, go ahead, Derek. We're going to try to figure it out.
I'm just giving them space to figure out where the mute is.
Usually in the bottom right hand corner of the screen.
I got a screen that I can't get to that.
Oh, yes.
You know, things keep popping up for some reason. I don't know what to do with them.
Huh.
Okay, now I can mute. Okay. I have no idea how I got it. My assistant came in and helped me.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Holy Spirit embodied in a person there, and a tech support. Yeah, I was just gonna say that at some point you become so clear on the truth and the gifts and the value that you practice the course and you reach towards the Holy Spirit because you want to authentically. You see the value, but I'm still in this middle ground where it's taking the frustration with the pain to kick me in the butt, and I'm hoping to make it past that point, so that I'm just reaching out from the sheer joy and desire. Carrie?
Derek, I'm so glad you brought this up this morning. In fact, just an hour ago, I was trying to force myself to convince myself to attend this workshop, which I need, the workbook. And it came to, I said to God mentally, I don't feel your presence, and Holy Spirit, I don't feel your presence. What do I do? And I got an answer I hadn't expected and I hadn't heard before. It was, this is where faith comes in. And for me, and of course it was speaking to me what I needed to know. But for me, immediately I realized, yes, of course, faith. And for me, faith is trust. My faith in God, in the Holy Spirit, is trusting. And my keywords my go-to words are, Jesus, I trust in you. They just resonate with me. And I can often feel that love and that help. I do want to remind you and all of us, we had talked about weeks ago, we had talked about how often, and many of us had said the same thing, how often when we're feeling so close to God, I mean, our life, at least my life, seems to go in waves. And when I'm feeling really close to God, which is wonderful, that and I'm aware of it. I'm aware, and this is where I want to be. However, there's layers and layers and layers of unforgiveness in me. And in fact, I realized when Holy Spirit or my guidance told me that, I realized for me, forgive, that's the answer. Course forgive, ACIM forgiveness, not pardoning something and making it real. And I realized somehow I lost that. It was so much with me, so ingrained in me, but somehow now I lost that. And thank you for bringing that up. And together, I'm blessing all of you. And I know you're blessing all of us. And because together, my gosh, we're powerful. I mean, God is flowing through us powerfully.
Thanks, Gary.
Can I just,
Sharon?
Oh,
okay, Ardith
Sharon.
and then Sharon. No, Ardith and then Sharon.
No, Sharon first. Go ahead. I'll come after her.
Everything froze for me anyway.
We can hear you, but we can't see you moving, but we can hear you. Maybe Ardith, you are next.
Oh, well, all I wanted to say was I'm so thankful to be here on this meeting today, because I wasn't going to say too much, but I've been kind of poked to tell you that this kind of reaction is so common. I'm finding it in so many who are studying the course, and at different levels or different places. I had been going through a tremendous growth spurt, I think, over the last month or so, and I was feeling incredibly wonderful, even with a few glitches that were going on around me. And then I think it was 2 nights ago, I lost the days, I was absolutely backsided with the most dark and horrible thing that came around me for a whole night. I didn't know what was happening. I had no idea. It came out of nowhere. And I it had me shaking and I hadn't had anything like this happen in years. This was just out of the blue. And I'm hearing other people talk about, from different spiritual traditions also, experiencing something over the last few weeks. And I don't know whether that's significant or not, but I do know that it was something that shocked me and also showed me, as I was coming up out of it, thank goodness I'm out of it now, but it showed me some things that I needed to look at. And so I think that if you can say that pain has a purpose, I would say it sure showed it to me in this one night. It was like a year and a night, and I'm not looking forward to it happening anytime soon, but I relied on the Spirit, and I think it is true when these kinds of things happen, walk by faith, not by sight, and be patient.
Yes.
Thanks, Ardith. Wow.
And it does strengthen your resolve, right? That's the whole point of it.
That's for sure.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. If you want only love, but want nothing else.
Right.
And that's the thing. We all want love, but we want other stuff as well. You know, we'd like to have our cake and what's the expression?
Yeah, have
cake
your cake and eat it too.
Yep.
Yeah. And I noticed that with myself too. And the idea is, I suppose, to have it exclusively, to want love exclusively. Yeah. Carrie, your hand is still up. Do you have something? Okay, go.
You just reminded me of some lines from Song of Prayer, which are very important to me where I am right now in my journey, except when I get super depressed, and then I won't even look at Song of Prayer. But the lines were, you cannot pray for idols and hope to reach God. But Song of Prayer, which is sort of like, it summarizes a lot of the later chapters, and the course grows on things, but it's God, he did it so great that no matter where you are, you get something from it. But he ultimately, when I awaken, before I awaken, I have to do what you were just saying, Johanna. I have to want only love and recognize I can enjoy other things. In fact, when I was in my really close state to God, I was just recognizing I just loved everything. But thank you. That helped me.
I see, Sharon, you're back. Did you want to continue what you were saying before?
Yes, actually, I lost my new internet everywhere seems to be unstable. So I'll talk real quick in case I go out again. But actually, I raised my hand when someone, and I don't remember who, was talking about forgetting the things that are so important that we need to remember all the time. And it just reminded me of a book I read a long time ago called The Screw Tape Letters, or Conversations with the Devil. Ooh. And in that book, it was like a satire, but it was a funny book. And I remember one of the parts, the guy was talking about, he was telling the devil how bad it is of him to put these bad thoughts in our mind. And the devil says, actually, I do my best work keeping things out of your mind. Ooh. I thought, that's
wow.
True.
Wow, that's good.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, everybody. I appreciate all your input on this one.
Yeah, me too.
And thanks, Ardith. I'm sorry that you went through what you went through, but it is normalizing to me. You're the third person I've talked to that sort of something has been, in the air for the last week. So it just helps me feel a little more like I'm not alone.
You're not, Derek. Big hug.
Thank you.
Well, the thing that strikes me what has struck me lately in the course when I'm studying various, lessons and sections in the text is the reciprocity.
Reciprocity.
Yeah, right. That word. Reciprocity.
That one.
That was it. The reciprocity and the relational aspect of this work. It's as individual islands we can do nothing. So it's good to reach out and to just receive each other's presence and words too. But even if somebody doesn't have the right words, they're still present. So, yeah,
definitely,
that helps me.
Derek?
Yep.
Oh, good. I don't know what's happened, but I raised my hand, but then something happens on my screen and then it goes away. And
you clapped.
I just thought I'd come in and say hi.
Yeah.
I would like to say something. I really appreciate what everybody is sharing. It's really great. This is my third time here, and it's a wonderful group. I heard about it on the FIP webinars. I guess you're all familiar with those, but I was really enjoying Dr. Rosenthal's presentations especially. And of course, you all know he passed away in March. But it was kind of a sad moment for me because I was just beginning, to enjoy those. We're going through them now, my wife and I. But today I wanted to share something. Last week, I wanted to do that, but I didn't. Manu, am I pronouncing his name right? Is it Manu?
Yep.
Manu.
Manu, is it Manu or Manu?
There you go.
Manu.
Manu, okay. I got to put the emphasis on the right syllable.
Yeah.
Okay, but he raised a question to us all about if we would share something about what the Course means by the name of God. Like, what's the name of God?
Yeah.
And, I thought about that. I had a few experiences with that with Ken Wapnick one time, but I won't get into that. But of course, he's referring to, there are different lessons than these, but, I call upon the name of God and on my own, and the name of God is my inheritance. You're all aware of that. And for many, many years, I have found it really helpful to substitute the word nature for name. So it would be like, I call upon the nature of God in my own, and the nature of God is my inheritance. We can all accept that the Course teaches that. And even in that lesson, it says, a father gives his name to his son. And, obviously a father gives his nature to his son. Now, there were a couple of things I just wanted to say, if you don't mind. I got some notes on it. As far as the answer to the question, does the Course answer that? Because in all those two lessons, he never says what the name of God is. However, in lesson 282, he says, Father, your name is love, and so is mine. So I would say that, the Course is saying that, that's God's name, right? That's is love. And that's our name too, like God is but love, and therefore so am I. The Course has that kind of thing. But the other thing is, I had an experience. I was writing a master's thesis in theology. And one of the advisors was, reading things, and I would meet with him ever so often. And my thesis was applying the teachings of the Course in Miracles to the problem of evil, which is a big problem in the philosophy of religion and theology. And he says, I noticed that, in your paper here, you say God is love. And it's like, well, that's kind of strange, love is a noun, love is a verb, you're loving or you're loved, or I love someone, but, I am love. It's like, but I think ultimately, in reflection on the Course, when the Course says that God is love, he's really referring to the nature of God's mind, that God is a loving mind. That's what he is. He creates. And of course, he'll personify love all the time. saying love created me like myself and so on and so forth, which you're all aware of. But when we think about the loving mind at level one, the spiritual level of experience, that this is God's nature, that this is God's name, he's a loving mind, he gives everything to everyone. I think that's what, his love is in reality, giving everything to everyone, including giving himself, that he created us like himself, perfect like himself, so that we have everything and we are everything. And of course, he wills our happiness, and that's the way he gives it to us. And so I think that all of that is God's name. That's God's nature, which is love. And that's our inheritance. So thank you.
That's beautiful.
Thank you for that, Robert.
Okay.
Go ahead, Derek.
I was just going to say, I'm pretty sure Manu is going to watch this recording, and he's going to enjoy that section for sure.
Oh, okay.
Before you were saying anything right away, love has always been my understanding of what God is, and never anything different. Never anything different. And I guess I see that as something all-encompassing, because after all, we give the word mind. We give every word symbols of symbols twice removed from reality. So when I just sit back, I realize removing the obstacles to the awareness of love's presence, God's presence, never has been anything else. I realize now all my life for this. Thank you.
Thank you, Ardith. I see Sharon's hand is up.
Yeah.
Sharon?
I have to say, I've always wondered, what is this name? Because when it talks about, call on the name of God, it's like, okay, what name should I call on? Because to me, God is God, and his nature is love. And I say his. I don't think God has a gender, but I believe that the nature of the oneness is love. But if anyone has a name, they've gleaned some name that we are to call him, I want to know it, because I've never come across it.
You're
Anybody
muted,
want to share? Yeah, anybody want to share on that?
I just want to say that that is the love too. I agree with that. Matter of fact, the Course says that love's meaning lies in oneness. That's what the love is all about. That everyone has everything. Everyone's given everything, and everyone gives everything. You're loving and loved, as the Course.
Right.
Thank you, Andrew.
Yes, thank you. I really like Robert's answer about the name of God. But I've also thought that Christ could be his name, because God gave Christ his name. God is the Son of God. Christ is the Son of God, and Christ is also the name of the Son. So, and they have the same name. That's a little tongue-tied here, but that's another idea. But I actually prefer Robert's idea.
Thank you. I'd like to share something about love and about God's name. Love can sometimes seem a bit, not far-fetched, but a bit abstract, like you're not really sure, what exactly is it? I mean, if you experience it, you know it, but it's very hard to put into words. And so I've been thinking of these creative attributes of love that we can identify in the world that we're in, like peace and freedom and joy and beauty. And so if I think of the name of God, I sort of have this whole list of items that I think real quickly, like love, light, joy, freedom, peace. And any of them that strike me at a certain moment, I go with that for that time. And that helps me tremendously, because if I think God's name is joy, I suddenly know where to go. Whereas if I say to myself, God is love, I go like, woo, it's also formless. And of course it is. But since I'm here, I like to have a bit more concrete. And so that helps me. Oh, I see lots of hands. Let me see. One and then Peter. Peter is trying to unmute himself.
Okay, you said one, right? Yeah. On this issue of the name of God, it just came to my mind, so I'm going to share it. We're not the first ones asking God what His name is. I just came to mind that Moses, when God was trying to recruit him to do his thing, he asked God, tell me your name so that I can go to my people and tell them that such the God of my fathers is sending me. And God said to him, I am who I am. Tell them that I am sent you. And I'm not sure that Moses understood that answer. I don't think that we have understood that answer. So I'm not going to pretend that I understand that answer. But what comes to my mind is that I am is in the present, is a present thing. So maybe he's hinting to us that if we want to know his name, we're not going to find it in the past. We're not going to find it in the future. And actually, when we give a name to something or someone, we are, of course, creating an image, a past image of that. So that when we remember that name, we're remembering the name, we remove ourselves from the present. And that's, in this business of time, apparently, the only appropriate time to meet God is the present. So I'm just bringing that up and sharing.
Yeah.
Thank you. Very valuable. Good point. Peter.
Thank you, everybody, for the discussion so far. I think somewhere in the course it says God is one. Am I making that up? Does that resonate with anybody? Because what I was going to say was love is not a feeling for me and my understanding of the course. Love is joining. Love is oneness. It's an experience. And I do think somewhere it says God is one. I don't know if that's the name, God's name, but it's this idea of joining where there is no separation. That changes everything. The world, there's no world at that point. And there's no other people. There's just us, whatever that is, as one. There's just one. It's very difficult to get my mind around. That's all I want to say about that. But I wanted to move on to another lesson, if I could. Lesson 133, I will not value what is valueless. And in terms of practical tools, again, I don't know how practical this is, but it gives some criteria for choosing. And so first thing he says is,
I've highlighted it. Hold on. I'll call it up and then we can read along because I've highlighted those. There you go.
I'm a few paragraphs down though, I think.
Right.
Oh, did you? All right. Well, so first, if you choose a thing that will not last forever, what you choose is valueless. Now that immediately eliminates everything in this world.
Yeah, it does.
other than our relationships. And he says somewhere in there, I don't remember where it is, your relationships that you form in this world are very real. So I take that to mean in some way it extends beyond this world. The next consideration is, why is the choice you make of value to you? What attracts your mind to it? What purpose does it serve? The ego wants, it fails to recognize. But the last criteria for choice is, he says, to believe. If you feel any guilt about your choice, you have allowed the ego's goals to come between the real alternatives. So if it doesn't last forever, if it's motivated by my ego, and if I feel any guilt, you know, that automatically excludes it in terms of having value.
And the word mute is up. That means I'm muted, right?
Robert, you're not muted.
Oh, okay.
Now you are. Okay, go ahead, Peter.
So I was just saying, so those criteria help me begin to focus on, again, what is valuable and what is valueless. So I'd like to hear what everybody else has to say about all that.
I've got a thought.
Go ahead.
I'm thinking about my kitty cat, who I do feel lovingly connected to, again, now that my last week experience has passed me. And I think of this, you know, me identifying with and feeling emotionally attached to the form of the kitty cat. And I don't want her to get sick, and I don't want her to die. And there's all this fear, and, you know, I would call it love, but it's really tied up with not only gooey lovey thoughts, but also, you know, all these fears. And like, for me to wrap my head around me letting go of valuing this separate form. It's this kitty cat, not that kitty cat. It's not my dog. I don't have that emotional attachment with my dog. It's this particular Emily. It's one kitty. The thought of letting go of that value, my first question is to not value it, is that synonymous with not being emotionally attached? In other words, if I didn't value when she dies, would I not cry because I'm not emotionally attached? Are those two things synonymous, is my first question. And then my second question is, if I do reach a point of not valuing the ephemeral, in this case, my kitty, will these feelings, these sort of the love of God move through me to where I just feel this love for the kitty and for everything else, and not have that sway of the emotional attachment, you know, to where if the kitty's alive, I'm feeling loving. And if the kitty dies, I give the kitty a beautiful funeral and I feel very emotionally connected to that, but not bad. So I guess for the group, I don't totally understand what the experience is of not valuing the valueless, because it can't mean that, like, you're walled off and shut down, like you don't mean anything to me, which is something I've done as an ego protection most of my life. So I'm a bit confused in this area. I see Johanna and Carrie both have their hands up.
Okay.
Johanna?
Yeah. The way I think about it is the people and the animals and the things that surround us, they're excuses. There's just excuses to let the love flow. That's all they are. And that's what I am in everybody else's life.
I like that.
And so it's what you love about your kitty is the fact that she calls love in you. She awakes the love in you. So when you connect with your kitty, you have love going on between you, and that's the essence. And the same holds for your partner, the same holds for an artist's painting or sculpture or whatever, and for us doing this Zoom meeting. Why is this important? Not because it's a Zoom meeting about the Course in Miracles. It's important because we get to experience love. And we need an excuse, and this is our excuse. Yeah. That's how I see it. I see lots of other hands. Arden, you see it that way, so good.
Yes,
that's why we get along so well.
Yes, it's true. It's true.
All right, Carrie and then Andrew.
I was going to say a similar thing. Because of course, Derek, that's a powerful, ongoing, everyday question. And for me, when I am feeling very loving about someone, and it seems there's no ulterior motive, I'm just loving. But then I realize this the body that I see is not real. In fact, the individual with separate thoughts is not real, you know. But for me, the love is real. Like Johanna was saying, it's an excuse to love. It's a call for, it's like a symbol of a call for love. Because of course, everything we see, as Artis said, words are symbols for symbols, twice removed. It's a symbol. Everything we see is a symbol, and that's that love is real. I would also like to say something about what you were saying, Robert. First of all, I was amazed because I figured the people who had been saying, yeah, they couldn't see anything about the name for God, they probably went to the ACIM web edition to look it up. And I just did that. And you're right. I mean, as best I could quickly read down the list, it said things about name and God, but it never said a name of God. I couldn't find where it says God is one, but there definitely is something, and I forget what it is, where it is. The will of God is one, and something about we recognize when we do something that the will of God is one. And he says very specifically, and for me this is very important because I keep seeing multiple images in this world, none of which are real, including carry camouflage. You know, this camouflaged body, this body that you see and I see, is a symbol or a projection of my running away, fear of the guilt that isn't real, but nonetheless that I thought it. So he does say, God has only one son. And for me, that's an important concept.
Thank you, Carrie. Andrew, Peter, and Derek.
Yes, in this world, relationships are the only thing of value. And our job here in this world is to make our relationships holy ones rather than special relationships. As far as your emotion, Derek, everyone has emotion. It's a natural part of being human and living in the world. The important thing is not to cling to emotions for too long. You experience your emotion, experience the mourning that you have to go through when you lose someone, but you will get over it. And it's important to realize when you get over it that that's done and move on and keep on perfecting the relationship. As far as the name of God goes, another thought came to me. God creates by extending. All life is a part of God. There's nothing separate. All life is one with God. We don't realize it here in this world, but communication in God's realm isn't with words. So does a name even have a meaning? That's just something I want to put up there. And that's all I have to say on the subject. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Is it me, Peter?
Yep.
So I think this is an example of the shift in perception that the Course talks so much about, the shift in perception. And that is, for me at least, the feeling of sadness or grief is associated with loss. Mm-hmm. So I have to see myself as losing something to have that emotion. See, for me, I notice my emotions stem from how I see myself, my perceptions. And so the Course invites me to see beyond the form and to see my oneness with whoever or whatever I'm in relationship with. You know, he does say in one of the early workbook lessons, you know, we could see I'm paraphrasing, the whole world in that table if we see ourselves as one with it. So if I see myself as one with a pet or with a loved one or something like that, I think that's the shift in perception that changes the emotional response. so I don't experience loss. This is all theoretical, but I think that's kind of where it goes. Thank you.
Thanks, Peter. That's helpful.
There's 3 hands up. Juan, Keith. Oh, Keith, I think was first. Keith, Juan, Robert.
Back to Derek's comments about the cat. It reminds me of hearing Kate Greaves talk about being in the presence of her dying father. And what I was impressed by was all the things she did not say in the presence of her father, such as, I hope you're feeling okay. I'm sorry we're near the end. I wish you felt better. I would say that in her voice, in her language, she did not express compassion or empathy. And she probably demonstrated compassion and empathy, but none of her words reflected any loss. So I was really moved by what she didn't say. She didn't show sadness and that type of thing. So for whatever that's worth.
That's interesting. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, Juan, and then Robert, and then Derek.
Okay, it's Juan. This is in response to Peter, and God is one. I checked in my thingy here, and the course does not say anywhere that God is one, but there are 7 places in which God is one appear. And they appear always, interestingly, as someone suggested, in terms of a relation. And let me read them to you. The first one is, the will of God is one. The next one says, the will of God is one. The next one says, every child of God is one in Christ. Again, a relation. The next one says, the same as God, what is the same as God is one with him. Again, is expressing a relationship. The next one says, your brother's holiness shows you that God is one with him and you. Again, expressing a relationship. The next one says, behold, the Son of God is one in us. And the last one says, the will of God is one again. So there you have it. That's
Very
what I want.
interesting.
Thank you.
For Robert.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's very good. Thank you, Juan. And thank you for the work you did there. That was why I raised my hand too. I wanted to comment on that issue, especially in my experience still with students of the course. You know, I mentioned earlier, I've been a student and a teacher of the course for about 40 years and have taught many classes and have talked with many students and teachers. And I do recognize that there's still a bit of confusion, you know, within the community, which is okay, because I think we're all at our place. And I think it's important that we just apply what we think the course is teaching, you know, the best we can. And I'm sure if we're making mistakes, we're mistaking what the course is teaching, we will sooner or later run into it and be corrected just because of our desire to learn this course. Because as the course says, atonement is for you, but learn this course. Isn't that amazing? You know, to think about what it means to learn this course, you know, not just understanding it, but practicing, applying, and accepting what it teaches. But this issue of one, which I have found helpful in speaking with other students of the course, is that there's a difference between one in nature and one in number. Those are two different kinds of oneness. The Son of God is infinite in number, as the Course says. Creation is the sum of all God's thoughts. In number, infinite. So in number, there's an infinite number of God's Son, which makes sense because the Course teaches that creation is an ongoing dynamic and it's eternal, or it never ends. So obviously what's being created is increasing in number. And the Course says that this increase does not mean that there's a change. So reality is still changeless. He's not contradicting himself. And he makes that point very well in chapter 7. But one in nature means that all of these sons of God, which are minds, just like the mind of God, they have the same nature, which means that they're the same kind of thing with the same attributes to an equal degree, and they're united. So they're the same, equal, and united. They're the same kind of thing. They're a mind with the same attributes, knowledge, power, love, happiness, etc. There's quite a few others. And they have these attributes to an equal degree. So God created us perfectly knowing like he's perfectly knowing, and perfectly powerful like he's perfectly powerful. We get to create like he creates, and so on and so forth. So again, my main point here is just that God's Son is one, yes, but not one in number. He's one in nature. Like the Course says, the Christ is God's Son. He's the unified Spirit. In other words, the unified Son of God is called the Christ. That's the Christ. And so that's a word the Course uses for referring to our nature, that we're the Christ. God's Son as he created us. So I would say that's the main thing I would offer, the difference in one in nature and one in the number. Thank you.
Wow. Thanks, Robert.
Yeah, thank you.
Man. I just had two things to share. One, this is sort of I just thought it was funny that the person who went through the 7 different places where God and one, exploring that statement, God is one, and the person who went through that was Juan, whose name sounds like one. So it's like, God is Juan. He's right here.
Hey, Juan.
Thanks for showing up to help us clarify the whole thing.
Yeah, it's destiny. What can I tell you?
Oh my goodness. I was just going to say that I'm really taking to heart what Andrew said about honoring the human emotional grieving process. You know, if I have thoughts that attach to form, then there's a releasing, a grieving process that I think is healthy to go through. And I think that really applies for me where I'm at in my journey. I did ask this question just a couple weeks ago of David Hoffmeister, who is, I don't know him very well, and I haven't studied him. I think some of you have known him very well, but I don't know him very well. But I had an inkling of some sort of enlightenment experience when he was around 30, whatever that means. I don't understand it that well. But I asked him, I said, so what is your experience of emotional attachment? And he said that his mother passed away somewhat recently. And he said that he was pretty emotionally even keel. You know, and he was there and he was, you know, attending to things and he was connecting with people during the funeral and all that stuff. But his main thing that he said in the webinar, I don't know if the webinar is out yet, but he said the whole experience is pretty emotionally even keel. And so I think that perhaps at some point of not believing in form, things do become perhaps just more filled with a neutral love and more emotionally even keel. But I think that I'm nowhere near that. So I'm really heeding what Andrew said.
Thank you, Derek. Sharon, would you like to share?
Oh, you're muted, Sharon.
I just have a quick question because I know we're almost through, but I want to know, how do all of you remember what comes up for you? Like this morning I was on my walk and I was listening to the whole text of today's lesson, and as the lessons go on, the text part of the lesson gets more and more involved, and it was bringing up things that I was thinking, oh my God, this is so over my head, I have no idea what it's talking about. And I just wondered, by the time we get to it a week later, it's like, I don't know. So do you think I put bookmarks in and big arrows? Like, what the heck is this?
All the time.
Okay. All right. I'll just make big notes then.
Yeah. And lines in the margin, references to text pages, and it's all noted.
Yeah.
Can I just respond to Sharon really quickly?
Sure.
I just want to say, Sharon, I was reading down that massive lesson that we had today, and I hit a sentence in there that I read about 20 times, and I'm like, I'm not following. I'm not getting it. And I finally went like, dude, and I stopped halfway. I haven't read the second half of the lesson. I just had to back away. So that's what happened to me today.
Yeah. It wasn't as long as yesterday's. I mean, yesterday's, yeah. But anyway.
If you meet anyone if you meet anyone who's a student of the course who says they don't have that experience, then tell them, go sell in a fruit stand, because it's not so. We know this is the way it is. We come across these things and it's just overwhelming.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. And we keep on going, Sharon.
We do. We do.
Oh yes.
We're not intimidated.
I'm just amazed that it looks like I never saw this before. And this is year 3 for me going through the daily lesson. And it's like, I swear I never saw that before.
And been there too.
Yeah, been there too.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Well, everybody, on that note, I think we're going to have to say goodbye. You're happy to stay on after the recording has stopped to just chat a little. But I'll complete the full hour with the reading a prayer that I will share, which is from the epilogue to the workbook. Thank you all for being here. This course is a beginning, not an end. Your friend goes with you. You're not alone. No one who calls on him can call in vain. Whatever troubles you, be certain that he has the answer and will gladly give it to you if you simply turn to him and ask it of him. He will not withhold all answers that you need for anything that seems to trouble you. He knows the way to solve all problems and resolve all doubts. His certainty is yours. You need but ask it of him, and it will be given you. Amen.
Amen.
Oh,
maybe I have to stop it.
you have to stop recording, Eric.